The Vancouver Canucks steal Game 3 in Edmonton. Silovs continues his breakout run. Boeser and Lindholm each strike oil twice, and Tocchet's line changes are trending towards optimistic opportunities. All that and more is coming up in this episode of Canucks Digest, but before we get to that, make sure to click that subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any and all Canucks updates this postseason. And with that, let's get into our first topic of the day, which is Canucks steal Game 3. Now, the Canucks were able to steal Game 3 from the Edmonton Oilers 4-3, scoring 3 goals in the first period, 1 in the second, and getting shut out in the third period. Elias Lindholm was able to open up the scoring with deflecting a Boeser shot on the power play in the first period, with Boeser rattling off 2 more of his own after that. And there was fans who thought that Boeser did have the hat trick, with hats raining down on the ice, and Boeser himself even thinking he did too, but he didn't, and he didn't even care. All that matters was getting the win, and in the playoffs, you don't really blame him. All that matters is getting the goals and getting the win. Hat tricks are kind of secondary in the playoffs. Then in the second period, Lindholm was able to make a circus act power play goal, scoring with the puck on his skate that he knocks to his stick right in front of the crease that he snuck behind Skinner, which prompted a goalie change heading into the third period. Now, Vancouver was horrible on the power play, on the penalty kill, I should say, with allowing 2 goals out of 4 penalties. Now, this is a team that we have said it time and time again. They have to stop letting Edmonton on the power play. They're way too dangerous, and they've scored in each game so far on us, and it's been costing us. If we had kept them off the power play this entire game, it would have been a completely different story. But thankfully, we were able to capitalize with the power play of our own with 66.7%, 2 out of 3, which wasn't bad considering only 18 shots on net. Vancouver continues to be one of the lowest shot averaging teams in NHL history in the playoffs. They only got 18 versus Edmonton's 45, which was an offensive barrage. They were able to win the faceoff battle, 57.6% of those. They weren't able to stay out of the box. There were some stupid penalties. Zadorov was a little bit more physical than he needed to be, but it still set the tone and let Edmonton know that we weren't messing around, and those 50 hits were enough to bolster with that. The 50 hits are the most that Vancouver has gotten this postseason, and tied for the most that Vancouver has gotten, I think, this entire season. They've only reached 50 hits, I think, once so far this season before tonight. Their 23 block shots as well were pretty significant considering all the shots that they were facing from Edmonton. They did take away the puck 8 times, which was great defensively. It was a great defensive battle throughout. Vancouver really kept their head on their heels, or head on their toes, really, and were able to kind of keep Edmonton out of the zone for a little bit until the walls started to break through, and Edmonton just could not be stopped. And you see in the shots on goal, Vancouver came out swinging with 11 shots on net in the first period of Edmonton's 9. And then after that, it became the Edmonton show as far as shots on net were concerned. 14-4 in the second period and 22-3 in the third period. That was very concerning, and it's surprising that Vancouver was able to score as much as they did, considering the few opportunities they got at the net. But they were able to make the most out of the opportunities. They caught Skinner off on a bad night, prompting a goalie change that was pretty effective until they used it as a timeout, basically, near the end. It was pretty strategic there. I can't fault them there. But yeah, it was pretty fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, who was even more fantastic was Artur Silovs. He surged on with his fantastic postseason run. He owned the Edmonton Oilers tonight, stopping 42 of 45 shots. I mean, you let in 3 goals. When you face that many shots, you're going to let in a few eventually. But again, he was pretty fantastic. He couldn't be kept he couldn't be stopped, really. He was making circus saves left, right, and center. He did snatch a stick at one point near the end of the first period. We'll call that payback for McDavid's cheap shot on Quinn Hughes in the last game. But nevertheless, after that, he was making incredible save after incredible save, posting a 9.33 save percentage. It's awesome to see that heading into the next game. Now, there was concern that Silovs was running out of gas or that they were using him too much. We've seen that Tocchet has been very enamored by Silovs since he put him in net to start with Casey DeSmith sitting on the bench. But Tocchet has still stayed vigilant with riding with him. He loves the hot hand. After 6 straight starts, he seems to show no signs of slowing down, posting a career best in playoff saves for himself and career saves in general. He was just electric. The city is going to love him. He was definitely one of the 3 stars tonight. And speaking of the other 2 stars of the night, you got to give props to Brock Boeser and Elias Lindholm. They were mining for oil, and boy did they strike it, with Lindholm getting 2 goals of his own and Boeser getting 2 goals and 1 assist. Like we said, we thought he had the hat trick, but he didn't. Lindholm did tip it in, but again, doesn't matter in the postseason. You just want to get those goals. You just want to get W's. Can't blame him there. And Brock Boeser just continues a fantastic postseason. In the 9 games he's played, he's got 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points with a +5 plus-minus rating. He's been stellar, and also been equally stellar is Elias Lindholm. In his 9 games, he's got 5 goals, 2 assists, and a +1 rating. This is pretty fantastic for a guy who people thought Vancouver was going to trade at the trade deadline because they weren't getting their immediate return investment from Calgary. But boy, has it paid off this postseason, with him being one of the unsung heroes of this postseason entirely. It was great to see these guys celebrating together. They have great chemistry. Boeser with JT Miller especially. This chemistry with these top 2 lines is just fantastic and off the charts. But speaking of off the charts, what is going to be off the charts, I think, in the next few games is the fresh blood and the fresh legs. We saw it tonight with the new lines for Game 3. You had Linus Karlsson and Nils Åman making their playoff debuts after getting called up from Abbotsford. They were having Linus Karlsson step in for Nils Höglander tonight after a disappointing Game 2. And then you had Nils Åman stepping in for Philip Giuseppe, who has really been just invisible. And these guys did make their presence known. They were unshakable. They seemed very poised. Despite being their first playoff game, they didn't seem nervous at all. Linus Karlsson was honestly everywhere all over the ice. He was when he was on the ice, he was on the puck. He was controlling it. He wasn't making erratic passes. He had very nice puck control. It just would be nice to see him get more shots on net in the next game should he continue. It seemed like Tocchet was pretty pleased with him, as well as Nils Åman, who was pretty great on the penalty kill. He didn't get any shots on net, but again, he was efficient on the penalty kill. He did exactly what he needed to do, and I think this player is going to be starting to break out as he goes forward. And there is a bunch of other Abbotsford prospects who are coming up that would be interesting. And you look here at Karlsson, where he did have a great season with Abbotsford. In the 60 games he played, he did get 60 points, 23 goals, 37 assists. He's a good right-handed right winger from Sweden. The Canucks love their Swedes, and he's really going to be another great addition to this team. Then you look at Nils Åman. He had 15 games with the Abbotsford Canucks, 8 goals, 7 assists. 15 points in 15 games. I'll take that any day. Again, he's another Swede. The Canucks love their Swedes. We got a Swedish GM. You gotta respect it. It's pretty remarkable how they've had a history of Swedes, not only current but also in the past. He's a center who shoots on the left. He was playing left wing tonight, and he did a pretty solid job, like we said. And this Canucks team is only going to get more and more depth as we go down the stretch in the postseason. We see that depth is everything when it comes to the postseason. We see how with Edmonton, that's really where they've been lacking, and how Vancouver's been able to get the leg up on them. Because with Edmonton, if you neutralize the big 3, you're able to kind of win the game, or neutralize that first line or that power play. You're able to kind of control the game and dictate how you can do it, especially with how chippy and how Vancouver has goal scorers anywhere you look. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the series shakes out. It's only heading into Game 4, but honestly, it feels like we've already played 5 games. It's been exhausting already. It's been physical. It's been bloody. I've been loving every second of it. It was great to see the chippy moments, as much as it sucks seeing Evander Kane's smug face on the bench after Zadorov got that penalty. It was great seeing Zadorov feed a few shots in there, and then Corey Perry get pulled to the box as well. You love to see it. If one of them's going, you got to take the other. It was a pretty aggressive scrum, but it was nice to see. But with that, let's get into comment of the day. John writes, I give Podkolzin a shot. I like to see him notch in on that Höglander Pettersson line and move Mikheyev to the Bluger Lafferty line. And honestly, John, I couldn't agree with you more there. When you see there with that Mikheyev line, you could honestly potentially healthy scratch him and put Podkolzin on that line, or even on the Bluger Lafferty line. Either of those guys you could swap out. We've seen what tonight did do with spicing up those lines, so spicing it up in the next game could present some opportunities. We've seen how Tocchet's been cooking lately. Let's see if he can cook up some more, and hopefully we can feast on some more goals. I would, however, like to see more productivity from our major stars. Pettersson, he got that 1 goal in the previous game before tonight, but it would be nice to see him score a few more. However, when we're winning games, it doesn't matter. We got the lead on the series. That's the big thing. We got 2 more to go before we can wrap this series up. We got 1 more before we can send it back to Vancouver. And for more, we'll see you then.